Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and we are finally back after a bit of a mid-season hiatus. Normally we are full of content over the break, over that mid-season bye, with a mid-season review and normally some like bonus episodes as well. But honestly, and I hope a lot of other supporters can understand this. With the way Carlton were going, we just needed a break. We needed a couple of weeks off, digest things. Now we are back and better than ever. So yes, apologies for no mid-season bye content, but don't fear, we're back. We've had our rest and we've got a lot to cover. But before we jump into it, obviously, Lockie, after a few weeks off, how are you feeling about the Blues?
Pretty refreshed, I'd say. Thanks, mate. I'm very excited for this weekend. I think, this should be a fun weekend of footy. Last weekend left me with mixed emotions, but I'm keen to go through that with you. I've missed talking to you about the Blues, of course.
Oh, no, absolutely. Likewise. It's a strange time. A lot of what we spoke about, I guess, leading up to the bye was let's not try to have any ridiculous conclusions from what we're seeing until we get to this point. Let's not overreact to what we're seeing week on week. Let's get a sample size. Now we're kind of here. And so that is I guess it should be the exciting part, but it doesn't feel it because of what we're seeing. So let's dive into the Essendon review to kick things off. Obviously this is coming out later in the week, so we'll try to make this a little bit more focused as well on the build-up, but we haven't spoken in ages, so we need to talk about the Essendon game. And I'll tell you what, Lockie, if ever you wanted a perfect example of a unconvincing win, this was the one right there. And I think it's very interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well, because obviously in this position, we can't take wins for granted. We haven't seen a lot of them this season. Coming up against a big rival like Essendon, a team you love to beat, sometimes you just got to take them. You've just got to enjoy victories. But the way that game transpired, initially when that final siren went, there was that relief, happiness, but it did quickly for me turn to just frustration around what we saw on that Sunday night. So after that game, Lockie, how were you left feeling after the win?
I mean, it sounds like we've gone through a pretty similar journey. Well, in the sense that I was in that state of mind after the game, and I needed to rewatch the game a couple of days ago, and I got a lot more clarity and definitely didn't feel anywhere near as bad on rewatch as I did in the moment, like being swept up in the emotion of it all and the narrative that we just have come to expect from the Blues this year, which is that no matter how dominant we are early in games, you just unfortunately know that it's not going to continue. So I found myself kind of feeling more riled up and stressed in the hour after the game, kind of talking to you and talking to others about the game than I even felt in the game itself. So it was very odd in that regard.
Yeah, it's so frustrating that yet again, a 6-1 kind of first quarter and 6 goals to 1, and you just can't be confident that we'll go on with it. Every single group chat, I had Carlton fans, I had non-Carlton fans, and every single person is this finally the time that Carlton go on with it? A bit of a depleted Essendon side. They've had a week off. Everything's looking good. Surely they don't bottle this one. And while we technically didn't, we tried our hardest to do so. And I think that's just clearly the thing that you want to trust them. You want to believe so much. But when they keep showing you the same thing, it's just really hard to have that faith.
It's very different. Those two words are different, even like believing in them. And I was hopeful, like you said, that we would go on with it. But it's impossible to have any kind of trust because there isn't the evidence this year that we will do that.
No, 100%. Now, something, obviously you're in London. Long-time listeners of the pod will know that. So you definitely weren't at the game. I don't know if this was broadcast on the coverage. I have no idea. Did you see any pre-game build-up with Andy Lee and Jack Post at all?
No. I saw a little. I knew that was going to happen, but I haven't seen any of it.
Yeah, so look, I don't know who's listening to this that was at the ground. I really want your opinion on it if you have seen
Mhm.
this. But to let other people know as well, they did the strangest game build up I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
Again, Carlton home game, sitting in your seat, surrounded by Carlton fans. I'm in my element. And they were trying to build up this rivalry, clearly, kind of going back and forth with Andy Lee and his mate who goes for Essendon.
Yep.
And it started, half the MCG is lit up blue, the other half is red. Already alarm bells are going off in my head, being like, what are we doing here? How come I'm seeing Essendon colours? It's Carlton home game. I want this to be strictly biased Carlton.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden they kind of start trading back and forth moments of the rivalry. So it starts with Essendon jumping in, showing them beating us in the 93 grand final. And I'm like, what is going on? How dare you show this?
Hmm.
And we didn't see Andrew Walker's mark. We saw obviously us beating him in a 99 prelim, but it felt like there was so many big key moments, us pumping him in a final. Didn't get any of that.
Hmm.
And we kept trading back and forth, and then it just kind of ended. It was lackluster, but also it wasn't biased Carlton. And for me at a Carlton home game,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to hear about the opposition. I don't really want to see how the opposition team have caused us pain over all these years and it leave as like a tie going into the game.
Huh. Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
understand why they did it that way. If they wanted to trade it back and forth, I feel like you could have done that in a different way where
Mm.
it starts off and, Carlton are talking about our triumphs over Essendon, and then maybe you show it and then you
Mm.
go back with us. Or even if you want to do like a montage, like I thought of this the other day when I was writing the run sheet, you could have simply gone, this rivalry, it means more the highs and it's all of the Carlton amazing moments. You go, the lows. And then so as a Carlton fan, you're kind of riding
Mm.
the emotion of it. It doesn't just feel like, hey, how good's Essendon? And then you start to go, it's bigger than bragging rights. It's the big tackles, Fraser Brown's tackle. It's the
Yeah.
big marks, Andrew Walker's mark. And then build into it that way. But instead, it was just kind of, hey, here's all the times Essendon beat us. Here's like a couple of times Carlton did it. Oh, we beat them in the AFLW in their first game. And then Jack Post's like, yeah, and then we took your best player. And like, then they moved on. So
Yeah.
many times it was like, well, I don't feel like we've won out of this.
Sure.
It was just, yeah, it was very strange. I hope they never do it again.
I feel like it's become clear to me that you've slotted this into the run sheet as a little marketing pitch for yourself to
Mm.
consult on these experiences. Is that right? Because you've
I
got the
can get,
ideas.
I mean, I could have run down. There was more to it as well, which is just crazy. I had, it's a rivalry that divides friendships, divides families. Tonight, there's
It's
only
true.
one thing that matters. Are you a blue? And then Cripper comes out looking stoic on the big camera,
Stop it.
and then it's like, or are you a Don? And then Merritt comes out, and then it's like Carlton versus Essendon, a rivalry that won't ever end, and the next chapter starts now. Bang! Are you up and about, Lockie? There you go. But you've
God,
shown Carlton
get me
highlights
there.
rather than just showing all the times Essendon broke our hearts. It fell flat
I
to
like it.
me as a rivalry anyway. But
Yeah.
I just don't understand why, as a home game where you can
Mm.
kind of control it, we let Essendon have so much.
Yep.
It should have been us
Yep.
70-30 at worst, I think.
Well, I mean, to tread into your domain, like going to Premier League games over the last year for the first time, it
Mm,
is such a stark contrast. Like, it
mm,
is the away team is intentionally
yeah,
degraded. It's like we're
mm,
going to put their team up on the big screen in illegible size 4 font, like
mm,
just to make it even harder for you to know who's going out there. It's like there is absolutely no, yeah, I don't know. It's so different playing at home versus playing away, just a completely different experience. I guess it's hard because it's Essendon's home ground as well. But I'm with you. Like I always
mm,
think that the home team should, be even more focused on them than it is.
mm. Well, this is almost going into an episode that we have planned for some stage where we're fixing the AFL. And this
Yeah.
isn't an idea I've come up with. I've definitely heard this before, but I back it in, which is you shouldn't, as the away team, have your song play before the game. You should not have a banner, and your song shouldn't play after the game.
Yeah.
Because it's not your home game. Because
Yeah.
you look at other world sports where, particularly when they're traveling to the opposition's home ground, that is 90% the home team, why would you give the opposition anything? They should be
Yeah,
treated
and they
like
don't.
nothing. And I think particularly because in AFL, so many teams share grounds and they don't really have a true home ground.
Yeah.
You need to build something as to some sort of advantage in those games.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
feel like that could be something. So to then, split the
I like that.
pre-game was very bizarre for me.
Yep. No, I like it. That is definitely going to be an episode in itself because I'm passionate about that topic too.
Oh, I cannot wait. But let's talk about Carlton Essendon and the game itself, because look, our starts in 2025, you could probably say they've been quite positive, and I actually looked through the stats on this and did a bit of maths, which is big for me. I don't normally do a lot of that.
This is good from
And
you.
basically, a third of our total game scores have come in the first quarter. And that happened again, even more so this week, where we had 6 goals to Essendon's 1 in the first term. It ended up being over 50% of our total game score, which is crazy. So I think now that we've had a bit more of this sample size, Lockie, what kind of conclusions, I think, are you drawing from this, and where those kind of problems are lying? Who is at fault for this? Because we seem to be able to start so well in games, show our best for at least a quarter. Never are we able to really sustain that. And sometimes we're lucky to either just hold on or kind of bottle it all together.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I felt a lot more clarity watching this on the replay, slowed down with no emotion behind it. And I watched it and saw that first quarter. And again, it didn't feel like this in the moment. I felt like it was almost a flawless quarter that we played. Like there was a free kick that Chincotta gave away where he blocked the defender where Raz could have taken a mark. It would have been 34-0 at that point, but instead they went down the other end and kicked a goal. Like if that didn't happen, it was a perfect quarter. And that kind of all continued until they kicked that goal just before halftime. They went in with momentum. They kick a goal 20 seconds into the quarter. And from there, everything changes. We're fumbly. We're not taking the risky kicks. Get Garv back in defense. It was just complete tale of two halves for me. And so, yeah. And that's nothing new, but it just gave me even more clarity than ever of how much I think that this is psychological. And I guess game plan as well, where when those things start to happen, the coaches seemingly say, all right, now it's not scoring time anymore. Let's shut this game down and see if we can just get over the line, which is just stress inducing.
Yeah. And I'd like to unpack that because I think one of the trains of thought from a lot of people is looking at that coaching and that we're not able to adjust in game. Where do you kind of sit in this? Because our starts seem to be so good. So in that sense, you'd have to say, if you're looking at the coaching, that we're almost planning so well to get jumps on teams, to know how we can kind of outmaneuver our opposition. But then seemingly in game, it falls apart as soon as there is an adjustment from the opposition. You look at this game against Essendon, we're winning the contest. We're able to move the ball direct, quickly through the corridor. All of a sudden, we're not winning it from the stoppages. Essendon seem to a degree, clamp up that corridor, not allow us as much space in those short options, which we've seen multiple times throughout the season. From that point, we can't move the ball. Where do you kind of sit on this being a coaching issue in not being able to fix it in game versus are we actually well coached to begin with? Because we are getting these jumps on teams.
On the rewatch, it still feels to me that so many of those options are there though. And it there was a few moments where in the first quarter, those short kicks the overlap run, the putting it back into the corridor. I can't remember a mistake. Like it was, and it was pretty perfect. So psychologically, we're still there and we're still happy to take those on. And then in the second quarter, there was an Ollie one or two that didn't come off. Then Lord had one. And from there, then I felt like we still had those options. But, and then this is where I don't know the answer. Is it the coaches telling them to start going long? Or is it the players going? Is it Ollie saying to himself, well, I'm not going to turn it over a third time? And there was a great example where he then had the ball 70 out from goal. He had short options to his sides. And he was like, well, I'm going to pump this one in, which it didn't work out. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if it's directive at that point to be like, okay, hang on, we're getting a bit flustered. Let's go to the long down the line kind of thing, or whether it's the players themselves. Because I'm still seeing those options. I know you're saying that potentially the teams are clogging the corridor more in those at these points, and maybe they do, but the options still are there. So then it's the question of, do we as fans want them to go, you know what? No, we're going to keep playing our way, even if the team's going to get a 5-goal run on here. We're just going to keep doing it. Or are we happy with this approach that we're taking? That's the hard part.
Well, it seems like if we are going to a negative approach, that it's not working anyway. So why would you continue this? Well,
that's the argument that you would make.
I guess so, but it wasn't. Here. I mean, I wouldn't be putting ourselves in that position and expecting to win most times. I don't think we've given ourselves enough to hang on to in that sense. But to go back onto your point and looking at some of the players, like there is just such a panic that seems to set in.
Oh my God.
When as soon as the opposition get a little bit of a run on 2-3 goals, it's panic. And you can see it. And it happens with the people that I get really frustrated with when I see it is those leaders, those who are 27 and above years old. These are meant to be the experienced players that we have. Yep. Guys like Saad do it constantly, picks the ball up in defense, doesn't look, jams it on his boot, turnover, or kicks it out of bounds, deliberate. That happened so often on Sunday night where we had options. There were guys to handball to or take half a second and have a look around. But we get so flustered and everything becomes frantic. And then as soon as we then miss one disposal, one executed kick, one handball, it's then, well, he's now fumbly. And then the next pressure builds. And no one seems to be able to just pick it up cleanly and deal with the pressure. And I still don't think that the coaching is great, but if the players aren't able to handle any sense of pressure against a team like Essendon, who honestly right now are not that good at all. They had so many of their guns missing. And we should have, from what we did in that first quarter, it should have almost been 100+ points from there on out.
Honestly, agree.
We let them in, and I think all the damage was done to ourselves. And I don't know how we're fixing this. It feels like the young players are coming in and they're not necessarily making these mistakes, or they're the ones who want to take the game on. You look at a young Matty Carroll, he wants to keep taking those kicks on. Cooper Lord wants to run. Ollie Hollins wants to run. But it feels like it's these experienced players that are the ones that are actually letting us down in these kind of key moments. How have you kind of seen that balance and what is going wrong in these games?
Yeah, it's interesting that you calling out the senior players specifically. Like in my notes, like from the first goal that Wright kicked in the third quarter to his second one in the third quarter, that was like a 2-minute span. You could count 10 to 20 examples of what you're describing, like players putting themselves or like teammates under unnecessary pressure. Like it just in baffling ways, whether it's handballs to feet, whether it's not looking at the obvious handball options or around weird kicks out on the full, or with insufficient intent, or all those kind of things. Obviously I don't have a solution, but one idea of what it could be is that the next time we get into one of these matches where we have a big lead and a team is coming at us and we're starting to get fumbly, is to just not resort to the long down the line contested scrap game and to go, guys, back ourselves in here. Mate, we're either going to get overrun and we're going to get overrun playing our best, like trying to play our best way, or we'll start to get the confidence and show that, yeah, we can get fumbly in a game and then we can get out of it. Because currently it seems like every match where we get those fumbly, stressful periods, we never escape it, right?
We can't arrest the momentum. It takes us so long to get out of it if we do get out of it at all. And every time we go to play slow and we try to take that pressure off us, because we've now slowed the game down to an absolute halt, there's now no space because the opposition have clogged it up. And I don't think we're skillful enough by foot and creative enough to then get out of it or maintain possession. So it ends up just putting more pressure on us. And now we're the ones who are flat-footed. The opposition are trying to move the ball. And that almost just adds more pressure and more pressure. So I agree with you. I don't think that trying to get control by going slow is the right way with how we're trying to play. It baffles me how we're still doing this so many years into this squad.
Yeah. And I mean, an obvious way to relieve pressure and to turn the momentum around is to make the most of chances. And in a game where, like, I know sometimes it feels unproductive to look at specific moments and call out specific players, but in a game like this where it felt like Essendon basically took every chance that they had, like they hardly missed an opportunity in this game to punish us. We had so many chances, like Charlie's snap that he missed. Come on, bro. You can't, like, these are the moments, the big moments in these games where it would relieve the pressure. And maybe then we would go back to the middle and go, no, guys, we're good. Like, let's keep playing our way. We're okay. But instead, these things compile and we don't get those chances to relieve the pressure. When Motlop was lining up for that goal in the third quarter, thank God he kicked it, because that was one of those moments where it's like, if he misses this, I know what's going to happen. They're going to go straight down the other end and kick a goal.
And that's almost the more frustrating part of this is, as soon as we do miss or we do turn the ball over, after struggling and battling for so long to just create one small chance, we just give it away so quickly, and we allow the opposition to make and create so many easy looks on goal.
Yeah.
Within blink your eyes, you've missed it. The opposition are now inside 50 when the ball was deep inside ours. And there's just so many problems that don't seem to be getting fixed. And I go back to some of the leaders on these issues because, you know, when, and I hate singling out players, but I think this is kind of the perfect example to do it. But when a guy like Patrick Cripps has a man out in space, decides to have the dinkiest kick over the top, that all of a sudden, I think that's when we potentially gave away the free kick that you were speaking about earlier, where you just hung it up too long and then Chincotta had to try and lay a bump to get to maneuver the opposition out of the way. The other one where Cripper is snapping it on his left, burning about 4 players, streaming in front of the goals. Why he's persistent with trying to kick it on his left foot when he is so bad on his right, he shouldn't even be given a kicking license for his left. And he still tries it. And it's just like these little selfless things of trying to win it, trying to take it on when it's just not the right option, not the right team thing, and the execution isn't there.
Yeah.
It's why I find it really hard to blame those up-and-comers, those youngsters, those inexperienced, because if our stars and our leaders aren't doing it, I can't expect anyone else to. And that just kind of feels like the issue right now, where those who should be taking us forward because they've been there for so long and they are our leaders, they're not stepping up. And I think that's why our results are so bad. You need your stars to be performing. And out of all of them right now, who is? Maybe Charlie, but he still has a lot more that we know he's capable of. But I'd say his output-wise, he's probably one of the highest right now.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we definitely could be getting a lot more from him, in my opinion, too. But I don't know if you're ready to switch to positivity, but a lot of what we're saying right now actually is why I'm quite positive. Like, if a lot of this really is like something psychological like that, where we just need to get the evidence on the board, like, every single person
Mm,
in that follows Aussie rules felt like going into half time that we were going to lose that second half,
mm.
like not lose the game, but we were going to get
Yeah.
outscored in the half. So how can we change that narrative and change it in the players' heads? And if we can, like, there was so many good things in this game to me, particularly
Mm,
early. So if we could have taken some of those chances, like that Charlie snap, like ridiculous. Um, Motlop's chance to seal it late in the fourth, a few of those chances early as well. It's not even a close game.
mm. Yeah.
So
No, I'm very happy to try and switch to some positives because kind of agree with you. How I've been looking at things a little bit is trying to look a bit more towards the future. I think is how I would probably
yep,
preface it. Where I'm not writing off this season at all. I still think you can make finals, and who knows, you just need to get there. It's going to be incredibly tough, and we have not shown we're consistent enough. But I think there's still enough to clearly work with. My issue is those older players, and is that kind of where you're
yep.
seeing the switch in this psychology that maybe
Mm,
a bulk of this squad who are plus 25 have just been around so many of these scarring moments where
maybe.
all they've known is losing, all they've known is bottling it, the pressure and not getting out of it. And then you're seeing some of these young players that seem to be performing, they don't seem to have that worry. Do you think that that's the issue?
Maybe.
And that if you maybe move on a few of those guys and tweak things a little bit, that hopefully those demons can disappear.
It's hard to know, isn't it? It's hard to know.
Mm,
God, I think back to 2023 so often because of how like similar it's felt at times and how
mm,
just hopeless everything felt going into that bye. And I just remember you and my conversations so well, all of which are
mm,
documented, and how it felt like all those demons were lifted in the second
mm,
half just through evidence. So while I do agree with what you're saying, and it's so hard to know the cultural impacts of 2015 to 2022 on a lot of
mm.
these players, I also hold hope that maybe it isn't broken and there is something there. Yeah.
Yeah, but what were your positives? Because we did win, and at the final siren, I was at least very
Yeah.
happy. I think being there made it a lot easier to get excited because you could just look over and see some very upset Essendon supporters, and that was enough to put a smile on my face. I know there was a very sulky Essendon supporter on the train that, even when I was starting to get a bit frustrated thinking about how he played, just filled me with a lot of warm
Oh,
fuzzies, Lockie. I
that's
love to
nice.
see him miserable.
That warms the heart. It does. Yeah, I mean, I again, like I said, on replay, I was like, wow, there's actually so much more to be happy
Mm,
about here than I was in my frustrated state watching. I can just throw a barrage at you and
yeah,
see what you
go
want
for
to
it.
talk about. I mean, I thought Hollands was so much more
Mm,
attacking. His overlap run, that seemed like a really conscious thing for him to play a bit of a different role in that regard, which was great. Obviously, Motlop being more forward and just the impact that he had was like every game this season combined
mm,
into one game, probably had as much impact. Doc being the designated kicker down back felt a lot better. That felt more like a role that he has shown he's great at in the
mm.
past. Um, Let me give you one more. The Hawk,
Yes.
who was expecting him to
Mm.
almost break the debut contested marks record.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. No, all of those are massive positives. I mean, we've kind of spoken about it a bit, so let's dive into maybe talking about some of those youngsters stepping up.
Yeah.
Ollie Hollands has been someone who I think throughout this season in a new role has copped a little bit of harsh criticism at times for his disposal. But I think in games like this, when everything becomes stagnant, everyone's panicky, for him to just want to take that game on and be the man and create so much for
Yeah.
us, I think he's such a positive. I still do think his best role for us is on the wing pushing
Same.
forward. But
Same.
while we probably don't have enough off that halfback and in defense, if he can continue to play like that and develop, it's such a positive for us. And It's just so good to be able to look and see some development to a degree from some of these young players.
Yep. No, I completely agree. I don't think that's the role for the future for him, but it's I mean, it's using his strengths at least in this game, which is what we want.
Yeah. How did you see the rest? Obviously, Hock was there, Lord, Carroll.
Yep.
We saw Harry O'Farrell the other week. Obviously, things aren't amazing at the moment, but he's starting to see glimpses of the future in some of these young players. Is that filling you with any hope that we can kind of turn this around, and whether it is at the end of the season a coaching move or trying to tweak the squad a little bit, that we've still got enough to work with? Because I think that was kind of the issue even a few weeks back was, is this entire list genuinely cooked? Because our age demographic is quite old. It's leaning towards that age. All our stars are aging. We don't know if we've got any kids coming through. What have you kind of made of their influence over the last few months?
Well, I'll start by saying, if I think back to like 2024 preseason, I feel like you and I obviously were very in the moment. We were very like, this is the year. We're coming off a prelim. It's all about the now. And if you think about the young guys on the list then and what they'd shown, you'd look back and be like, shit, like their signs really weren't there. It was Hollins and Cowan.
Yeah.
And I guess Kemp. I feel like probably the only ones where they had like played games and had showed him some signs. Even Cowan, I feel like probably hadn't shown heaps at that stage. So add the Camporellis into the mix that you're talking about, Jagger to come in, and you get a lot. I feel so much better now than I would have 18 months ago about the youth. And you think about, and then you could say Cody Walker, throw him in the bunch, and it's like, okay, I can actually see a team in 5 years that is, there's the now. You can be excited about the now and the future, I think.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's kind of interesting when you're looking at like the list build as well, because it doesn't look like we're going to win the flag this year, Lockie. But
I don't think so, yeah.
It's all about what you can do to kind of change that. And the big worry was, I'm looking at some ages here. Haynes is 33, Newman's 32. This is my graph of everyone by the end of the season, by the way, in case you're like, he's 31 now. He'll be 32 by the end of the year. Sard 31, Williams 31, McGovern 31, Cripps 30, Akers 30, Hewitt 30, Charlie Wiedering, Silvani, and Harry are all 28. Like it's, oh no, we're losing sort of like the core of our list, but now we're starting to see some of these players come through. Obviously, we've got Walsh and Chera in those prime age groups, but then Durden's shown a little bit this year. Motlop on the weekend. Elijah Hollins, we know what he can get up to. Ollie, Will White shown glimpses this season so far. Cowan, O'Keefe finally gets a game. Cooper Lord. We know Jagger Smith's coming through. O'Farrell, the Camporellis are there. So it does fill me with a little bit of hope now that I think even you just look back at last season, we got to a stage where we got all these injuries and we're having to play guys that have never played before because we kind of kept the main list together for the whole season. This year, we've kind of started to sprinkle in some of these youngsters, play a few games here, and the season hasn't gone to pan. But if we were in a situation where we were truly in that top 8 but needed to cling on to it, and all of a sudden some injuries happen, you could feel pretty confident to bring these players in, where last year you absolutely would not have been able to do that.
I know I'm kind of a different one again, but Lemmy obviously kicking bags in the twos. Like if we were saying who is going to be replacing Charlie and Harry in this new, like the new era of Carlton a year ago, we would have been like, there's absolutely nothing. Like there's nothing there yet. We haven't seen anything. So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I'm very interested to unpack a bit more of that in the coming weeks as well, because fingers crossed, Lockie, and I don't want to go too early because we did this in the Richmond game, but if these are some kind of very dull wins because they are quite easy against these opposition, then we're going to have to think of some other content to talk about. So this could be something we delve into on by the end of the season. What tweaks can we make and what are the players we can kind of build around? But looking at some other positives, like you mentioned, I think Zach Williams was a big one. And just,
Oh,
we have lacked high half forwards that can use the ball. Him and Fantasia into this squad. Now, no one is saying that Orazio is an absolute superstar, nailed on best 22 every single week. But his skill set is something we have not had due to injury pretty much all year. And I've been banging on for quite some time, and I feel quite vindicated in this. In the reason Motlop's been playing poor is because he's been playing high half forward, pinch hitting in midfield, and that is not his role. Finally, we bring two high half forwards in. He plays close to goal. This is what happens. So I just think it's such a positive.
Agreed.
It does highlight probably a deficiency as far as the amount of talent we have in that role. However, once the players we have there are fit, just the difference that makes to how our mid-forward connection is. How did you kind of see it play out?
Completely agree. Oh, my God. Yeah, we spoke about it after the game, like just how important Williams is to the structure and that whole thing. Like, yeah, he's such a good decision maker, and he's able to execute those decisions. Yeah, he keeps finding a way to kick a goal or two in these games as well. Like, oh my God, he's so important. So yeah, Elijah Holland is another one that I guess plays that role that would be great to have him in there.
And you can say Cottrell as well is another that
Sure.
hasn't been there. And I think I love Zach Williams as well. I feel like he gets the fan base, which is a big thing. Obviously, he's running into that open goal, points to the crowd, tries to get them up and about. And then even after that, I don't know if this was on the broadcast at all, but that then sent a bounce. He was started in the goal square. He turned to the cheer squad, to the Carlton supporters, was saying, get up and about, was doing the, come on, I can't hear, let's go up and about. And
that's fantastic.
That made the crowd cheer more. It got a bit more atmosphere. And obviously he was sensing in that moment, we need some energy. We need something from the crowd here. And when you do that, it's very easy to get on board. So love that from Zach Williams. And yeah, I mean, Doherty as well, someone who you mentioned, Lockie. Did we just, like, we finally put him back to his position where he won an All-Australian? Is that just the most simple move that should have been made a while ago?
Oh, it's hard, isn't it? It's a hard one. It's a hard one because when players try a new position and then it comes off, it's always applauded and looks like a genius move. So you can't blame them for trying something different, but maybe it was tried a bit long. Yeah.
No, but it's great to see for a man who, it wasn't looking good for a while. Start of this season, we weren't sure if he was going to come back and get into any kind of form, but absolute credit to the man. He looked like he wanted to be more physical as well. There was a few moments where he had to really go and put his body on the line, which I guess after so much struggle that he has had, I don't blame him if he ever kind of went half-hearted into any of these contests, but it looks like he has full confidence in his body again. And I think at the moment, while we're still trying to figure out that best back six, back seven, to have a Doherty in there playing that kind of footy, not the worst thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the intercepts that he took were impactful. And a note that I wrote down in the first quarter where it was like, again, why can't we just do this all game? The build up to Charlie's second goal, where we got an intercept in the back line, we chipped it around a little bit. Doherty has it on the flank, and it's like, okay, he's going to go long down the line here. No, enormous switch to the other side, kick, goal. And it's like, so who would have thought? Like, you don't have to just go long down the line. Yeah, so shout out to him.
No, absolutely love it. Did you have any other positives before we go into a few more of the negatives from the game?
I think Silvani and Haynes are worth calling out.
Yes.
In a game where Wiedering was off more than any other game that I can really remember in recent memory, just in his impact. I thought those two were fantastic again. And I reckon, I'm interested for your perspective on this. I thought Chincotta was fantastic as well. Although maybe not impactful on the offensive end with 3 disposals, which is pretty crazy in a full game. Merritt was pretty much a non-factor for me, which is really important.
No, I think you nailed all of those points there. Just start on the Chincotta one. I agree. I think having someone that can play a shutdown role and stop key opposition plays is obviously a good thing. I have never really been a lover of the tag. I want to be offensive. I want to say that our players can just beat your players. So I think there is clearly that still room for him to be more offensive and get something else going the other way. But first game back after a very long injury layoff, I'm going to allow him a game to kind of settle in when I know he has that defensive role. But I think it is a bit of a watch this space to see if he can go the other way. Because I think when he was playing good football last season, he was able to get off his man, get a goal, make something happen for us, which was a big positive. And then, I mean, Silvani's role on Caddy was big. He was clearly the one I was very worried about going into this game to keep him goalless. Just please, someone give this man a contract, and Jack, please sign it, because he's become so pivotal in what we are doing down back.
Yeah, I completely agree. This week, please.
Please. What were the key negatives for you, or the issues that you're seeing that still haven't been addressed and need to be addressed?
The moments, like, I don't know if the listeners did like this topic or not, but it's so funny because there's 120 minutes of the game, and so much of it to me is like not like they're not moments that matter, but then there are those moments that shift the game so much. The one that maybe made me angriest of all was the goal that Wright kicked on halftime, where, please go and watch it back if I say that and you don't remember the moment, but they had a mark maybe 55 meters out from goal. He wasn't going to be able to kick the distance there. We almost look like we want Wright to lead into that space.
Completely switched off.
The C's part. The C's part. Sard is standing there like, like, I'm going to block your man for you. Right. Run near me to block. Just so impactful that they can then go into halftime with that goal, with the momentum. They have that little thing. I just cannot believe that we all fell asleep in that moment. That was like, how can we not be attentive? It's so important to not let them score here. So that was really frustrating.
And then even offensively, you talk about, obviously we started so well, let it slip, the momentum shifts. Last quarter, we then kick 2 goals, get 23 points up, and you think, beautiful, here we go. Then we let them kick the next 3, and we had so many ample opportunities, whether they were half chances or not, to go on with it, just get something on the scoreboard to calm things down, ice the game, and we just couldn't do it. Like, Jesse Mottler played a great game, but missed an absolute sitter. Cripps not centering it. There was so many options. Like Akers, I know it was a tough kick, but like to then kick it on the full, not even make the get a score. Like, what are we doing here? Look for another option. It just felt like Charlie as well. Like, there was so many of those moments, like you mentioned, where you can positively affect the contest and the game, or you can add more pressure. And it just feels like we're constantly adding more pressure in those worst moments for ourselves. So I absolutely agree. I can't finish the game off as one of mine. And I think the other big issue that I feel like we've been saying this for quite some time. I have memories of bringing this up almost 2 years ago, Lockie. And I've noticed this week the media are finally talking about it. And it's excited me in the way that we roll up on defense, Lockie. I feel like it is a cause of so many of our defensive transition issues. And I noticed it again, and I have such a fortunate position at the MCG behind the goals that I can see the play breaking down. I really noticed this against Geelong this year. And then again this week, there was just a few moments where it happened again. Essendon win the ball, and instead of letting the pressure come from behind, like I remember being taught in under 16s footy, this is not rocket science. Haynes pushes up. Wiedering pushes up. They let their man stay in the space, And by pushing up, you're creating space behind you. And
Yeah.
they never seem to affect the actual ball carrier and create any kind of issue. And it's handball over, kick over. And there's just a domino effect, a cascading effect every single time.
Yeah. To a
And
goal, square goal.
and we give up the most easy opportunities. Whereas, and this feels like a coaching issue for me, because if it happens so often, it must be a directive that they're told to get off their man and try to stop it. And for me, that just feels like the dumbest thing possible, because I think doing that in your front half works. In the immediate 2 seconds when you've turned the ball over, it's almost like everyone press, like you would in soccer. It's try and win the ball back immediately. If that doesn't happen, there needs to be a line on that field where, okay, we have to hold our space here. Whether that is staying on your player or just pressing up slightly, but going the whole way, taking yourself out of the contest and leaving that space, leaving that option just isn't working for us right now.
Yeah.
And if you sit back enough, well, the Essendon player can only move so far with the ball until they're at you. And you're forcing them to make a decision, forcing them to find an option. And it just feels like such an easy, obvious fix for us. Where just stop rolling up so much, stop rolling up so high and giving them the option. And have you noticed this become a problem at all?
I'm in agreement. I think, so I can definitely think of a couple moments in the game where it worked, where like there's a Sard one in my head, for example, where he definitely came off his man and he came and affected with the spoil. Looked great. If I had to guess what our policy is, it's every time do it. And that's the problem. Because there's so many times, like you said, where each person that rolls up isn't even close to affecting
so far away. There was one with Wiedering where I reckon he was
I know the one
30 meters away, and I just saw it unfolding before my eyes going, no, Wiedering, what are you doing? Like, there's no one, you're not that fast anyway. Like, Sard wouldn't make this. What are you doing trying to do it? Just stay back. You'll be fine. Oh,
that's the problem, I think. Because I can't think of a time where we're in that situation and they don't do it. So I think the policy is no matter what, you leave your man. If someone's free, you leave your man and go up. And that, like you said, I think that's been a theme for a few years.
And is that frustrating part because we at times seem to struggle so much to create chances ourselves. And then when we give the opposition such easy shots at goal every single week, moving it from D50 when we've been struggling for the last 20 minutes, it kills you when you watch it. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. It was so nice when Williams got that second goal because it was like, wow. When
we got an easy one.
The goal like this, an easy one. It felt so good.
Yeah, no, 100%. Question for you outside of this, because Vossi kind of mentioned this, I guess, trying to balance some positives and some negatives out of this in the press conference. He was asked about the way that we have again kind of let such a lead slip in the second halves have kind of faded away. He tried to look at it clearly glass half full, which is what he's kind of meant to in his role, saying that at least we're in the position where we're scoring goals. We're having these big quarters, and then we are producing opportunities. We're getting inside 50s. We're getting looks. We're just not executing. Where do you kind of sit on that? That clearly it's better than the alternative where you're not able to make those chances, but 4 years into a regime, and that's not just coaches, that's this playing group. I'm sort of talking the totality of the club right now. We're still talking about, well, we need to get it right for 4 quarters. We're not consistent. Where does this all sit with how you're kind of, I guess, analyzing the club at this stage and where kind of the club is at?
Wow, that's really hard to dissect, I think. 'Cause it's so, like what he's saying there is so hypothetical, I guess. I definitely prefer the position that we're in to plenty of other teams that I watch. The ones that don't get their hands on the ball, the ones that don't get the ball inside 50 enough to even, where it's like the raw numbers just say that you're not going to win games playing like this. or very many at all. So I guess, yeah, I like drawing it positively in that way. Yeah, I don't know. I like I said kind of earlier, I'm actually reasonably glass half full right now. Not that this season we're going to end it and be like, wow, what a great season. But
Yeah.
I'm a lot more. I'm seeing a lot more of the positives in the blocks than I was.
I feel like that's where I'm at as well, weirdly. Which I know we're obviously the positive Carlton podcast. That's kind of been our brand for quite some time. But it's more, I'm seeing enough positives. Like you look at, like you mentioned, 2023, that front half was everything was a struggle. It didn't feel like we had those quarters where we showed something. And we've at least had that this year. So that at least leads me to think that it's fixable, whether that's coaching, whether that's playing group, whether it's both, whether it's administrative. I have no idea. I hope that having someone like Graham Wright means that he will know what it looks like and he will know the right areas to look at and fix. There's at least enough positives and little signs in little different things throughout that it feels like it can be fixed and turned around. The tough and the hardest thing is making those correct decisions and making those correct changes. Whoever we bring in, whether that's list coaches or an admin, there's a lot of pressure to get it right. The clock is kind of ticking on,
no doubt,
on at least the top end of this list right now.
It's true. And I think, like, I guess what we kind of hoped, it's so funny how we've got to this part of the season where earlier in the season we had a block of games that we were like, okay, we have a few easy ones now. Will that build our confidence? And then it felt like the Adelaide game kind of shattered it and we went back into everything. So it's almost like I feel like we have that moment. This is our 2023 moment again, where hopefully we can put really strong performances in these next couple of weeks. And then we're going to have a chance to be like, have we learned or not?
I think you're absolutely right. But to finally put a bow on this game, Lockie, what are your votes? Your 3-2-1 best on ground this week. I feel like it was a tough one.
It was
to nail it. I feel like everything but the 3 was quite easy. I wanted to give 2s and 1s to everyone. The 3 I don't feel great with. So I want to hear yours so I can maybe steal it.
Did you go TDK 3?
Didn't get a vote.
Wow.
I think we need to unpack this.
We can.
I thought TDK, I saw his stat sheet. I thought he lost his direct battle in the ruck. And I thought that was a key reason as to why we struggled in the midfield. I didn't think his hitouts were that effective. I thought he spent too much time trying to wrestle with Goldstein and he should have absolutely dominated that. And there was a lot of key moments where we needed to win the center clearance and I didn't feel confident when he was in there. I thought at times Hockball was better at center bounces than what I was seeing of De Koning. But I'm interested to know your thoughts. I thought he was pretty bad and has been for quite some time.
Yeah, okay. So a few things there. I agree. Like, I think a few of the games pre-bye, I was underwhelmed with his performance as well. I'm with you there. And also at the end of watching the game live, I was like, yeah, he probably won the ruck battle marginally. On replay, it felt a lot more evident to me how dominant he was. Not the ruck contests, not the highlight, but just his work.
I think that's my issue. I think that's my issue in this is, sorry to cut you off because you're explaining it perfectly. Because I agree. I think around the ground he was really good, but I felt like this was a game where he really should have dominated that ruck battle. And when we lost the ascendancy in the midfield, for us to not be able to turn it around with a guy like De Koning, that's kind of the reason I didn't give him the votes. And I'm happy to say I might be biased here. And there might be other things in my brain that are tainting how I'm kind of seeing things at the moment because I'm looking at it through the lens of I don't think he's going to be at our club next year.
Sure.
And I'm looking at it through the lens of this is how much he's worth to St. Kilda. This is how much we would be paying to keep him. And he is not performing anywhere near what we would be paying to keep him next year. So I'm happy to say I'm probably biased in my evaluation of him right now.
And I think there's a part of me that also wants to think that as well. So I definitely get where that energy is coming from. I mean, yeah, I don't have all the stats in front of me, but I just felt like if I think about the most impactful positive player on the game, I would say it with him in terms of his launching scores, being involved in scores. He was tackling, like that tackle on goal scene was one of the most impactful moments of the game. Intercept marking when it mattered. So yeah. But
he did have one of the funniest out on the falls of all time in that forward pocket where he was facing the boundary line, nowhere near the goals, and he didn't even like try to kick it anywhere but straight. And it was like, what are you doing? Where is that possibly going to go other than straight? Amazing. No, who were your other votes? And I'll try my best to absolutely shit on those as well.
He did get the 10 coaches votes, so I just want to say,
yeah, that's fine.
But I love that you've got a unique take. That's great.
Contrarian.
I'm excited to hear who your 3 is then, because I've given 2 to Motlop as the biggest overperformer in this one, and like you said, I've got slashes with 3 guys here of who I want to give the 1 to, but I'm gonna have to give it to Williams.
Yep. Fair. Wow, we're very different. The only one that's the same is Motlop too, after the way he had performed. And I think as soon as you are quite a maligned player at the football club, when you have a game like that, it's just so good. I just love to see it, and I'm so happy for him. I gave my 1 vote to Ollie Hollands because I thought when he
was one of my ones.
We were struggling, he was just trying so hard to manufacture things for us. Zach Williams is incredibly stiff not to get a vote. He probably should have one, and I probably regret doing it. Right. Again, I don't feel confident in my 3, but I gave it to Adam Chera. I thought he was by far our best midfielder. When he went off the field, I felt like we lost control immediately. I just thought his influence pretty much because he wasn't out there almost made me think he had a better game than he did.
Yeah. I thought his effort and the care that he showed was enormous. Just some of those kicks, man, some of those clearances that he gets, it's like, don't even count this as a clearance because you've just kicked it straight down their throat. That's probably the thing that took my game away from him, or took votes away from him for me. But yeah,
it's fair. If I had it my way, I would be splitting those 3 votes amongst everyone else and just probably doing it. So we both don't have great 3 votes. But we have listener questions, Lockie. We haven't had a pod in a while, so the listeners have come in droves. So we normally chuck these out on the socials, on Twitter at Navy Blue Corner. Links are in the description, in the show notes. So if you ever want a question, we'll tend to tweet out there, but you can just follow us on anything and shoot us a DM. We will write it down. We will make sure we answer the question. If we don't, you can harass us, and we are absolutely fine with that. And maybe if you harass us enough, we'll answer the question. But Lockie, what have the lovely people asked us this week?
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here. Again, I'm just going to let you be the one that answers all these, so I don't have to put myself out there. From Breezy, Acres goal, did he mean it? Or was it a top of the goal square job, do you think?
That was so wild because that was my end. So I was behind the goals being able to see that. And it was just, this is another time where she's going to, find someone in that goal square. And then you kept running a little bit. And you're like, okay, it's going to pass it off. Kept running. And then as soon as he kicked, I reckon he was aiming for the goals there. I don't reckon he believed he was going to kick it. But yeah, that's one of he has that, which is crazy. He has some of the worst kicks of all time, but one of them will be the greatest goal you'll ever see. It's just the ups and downs of Blake Acres.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I'm not going to add to that. You summarized it well. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a bit earlier, but from Mark, is it just me, or does the feeling after that, is that not a great feeling after that game? Essendon are woeful, and we managed to win while also not really seeming to improve on our shortcomings. What would you say to Mark?
I just agree with him. It's kind of the frustrating thing now where you keep hoping we take a step forward and you see that thing to get excited about for the second half of the season, or that we've finally figured it out. Because everyone can diagnose the problem. It seems like Voss has done that so much in the press conferences. We know what our deficiencies are. We're just hoping they, as a collective, we can fix them. But once again, you get that one step forward of we've finally fixed it. Things look amazing. And it's 12 steps back. So these games are really frustrating. And now we come up against some opposition that we really expect to beat again. Some, I guess, less than Essendon. You worry what you can kind of take out of them because we've been here before this season already. So it's just a weird period for us where I think, again, it's just another month of figuring out where we are by the end of it to see if anything's changed. But where we sit now is where we've sat for the whole year.
And I guess that leads into Dom's question, which is, us trying to look optimistically at things. What have we got to look forward to as a fan base? And I mean, yeah, you can take that into two different approaches, which we've talked about, which is like the future, like thinking about this next iteration of Carlton and what that is. And I think we've kind of talked about what there is to be, look forward to there. Is there anything more from this season point of view that you're thinking about in terms of being positive?
Probably not this season, to be honest. It's probably more with a lens to the future. But I'd say it's the fact that we're not getting the most out of what we have. We are not more than the sum of our parts. Our stars are not performing, and I can happily go through them at the moment. I mean, Sard had one of his better games, but we haven't got great output for him for some time. What's the output from, I said stars, but I'm, again, meaning those older players here because I've got a spreadsheet in front of me that has them by age. That's why I'm going these guys first and not Charlie and Cripper. But like McGovern at that age, are we getting his best? Cripps probably having one of his worst seasons over the last few years. Charlie's down. Wiedering been down the last two games. Mackay, weird season. De Koning has been up and down this year. We're not getting the best. Walsh at the moment, nowhere near his best. Chera has been one of the few. So you're looking at, your top 10 best players, and what you'd saying maybe one or two of them are close to their like floor, kind of like it's crazy. So I think the output that we can improve on just by having them play anywhere near their best is ridiculous. So that's the positive for me, that if we are able to get the most out of our stars, then all of a sudden things can switch for you. I'm not sure that's going to happen this year around what this iteration of Carlton is. But the positive is if they can figure it out. I mean, we thought this list was top 4 at the start of the season. I still think it can be if our top 10 players are all playing their best footy. You look at all the best teams that are performing, all their stars are playing their best footy. That's the difference right now. Our team is just not performing. And it's everyone.
Think of the most positive times in the Voss era. It was everyone. It was the stars that were performing, and it was the role players that were performing. So currently we've kind of got neither. So I don't know.
Is that positive? That felt a bit depressing near the end there, but I think
maybe
the glass half full side of it is it can turn. We've seen it turn.
We have.
Is that the listener questions, Lockie? Is that all wrapped up?
That's the listener questions, Ian.
Beautiful. So I said we'd just get into the Essendon game quickly before we jump into the West Coast. It's been about an hour, Lockie, unpacking that. So hopefully everyone listening to this on like a Friday, Saturday, a few days before a game, they probably didn't give a shit at all. But I cared, and I wanted to talk about where we're at, because I think we've had a few weeks where we haven't sort of got our take around where we sit, all things Carlton. So I think it was good to unpack it, to understand our perspective leading into this. And leads me to one of my favorite questions I have on this run sheet, Lockie, which is, what can we get out of these next few weeks? Because as I mentioned only a few minutes ago, we've done this before. We've been struggling, and then we belted West Coast. We belted North back to back. We then even beat Geelong. Things were looking beautiful. However, we then had our worst loss of the season against Adelaide, struggled to get a win over the Saints, dropped 2 winnable games to the New South Wales sides. So without getting ahead of ourselves, but we're thinking that we could have a similar 2 weeks as we had earlier this season. Is there anything that you're looking out for from these games that you can take? And I guess what lens are you looking at the moment as well? Is it this season, or are you kind of looking at next season and beyond about maybe those players that can kind of take us to the promised land?
I mean, it's both. But when you are asking that question, my gut does say this season. Honestly,
Okay.
I don't think that we're going to win the flag this year. But kind of like I said earlier, I hope that we can use one of these games to have a really strong part of the game, get challenged, maybe even get a bit fumbly like we did in this game, and recover in a better way. Like every game of football that I've watched this year, the team that lost had a stretch where they maybe they didn't even put a lot of goals on the board, but at least they got some ascendancy and they were getting the ball inside 50, or they had more of the ball. So it's going to happen in these two games. How do we respond in those moments? I think that's the thing that I'm looking for in these couple of games is, can we see something different?
I don't mind it. I quite like it. I think my lens at the moment is definitely a lot more looking at the future. I still think we can get a lot out of this season, and it's not over by any stretch. I wouldn't be watching if I didn't think so. But a lot of what those little things in the game that I'm looking out for is who's stepping up, who can I trust going into next season and beyond that I want to build around. And at the moment, there's guys like a McGovern, like a Sard, that I'm saying, no, I want to find something else because you're letting me down and you shouldn't be letting me down. And I don't want to just single out a few guys, but it's those age groups where I'm meant to trust you. I'm meant to feel so calm when you get the ball. Every other team, when you can compare those like we did a few weeks ago, they're the dependables and ours aren't. The ones that I feel more comfortable with seem to be a lot younger. So there's been those positives of seeing your Cooper Lords, your Ollie Hollands, your Hawks sort of come through and perform. I'm kind of interested to see how they keep going. And if anyone else kind of starts to put their hand up, that we can see some signs of what's that 22 look like next year? And who are those that maybe they're not next year, but they're the year after? What are we building at the moment? Because feels like this season's a real crossroads for us where we might just get into finals, but we're probably not going to affect it. So what do you do? Because we're built to win right now. So that's kind of the lens that I think I'm looking for. And then around these two games, it's probably get the job done. And unfortunately, I'm not sure I'm getting a lot out of it. It's what we do after that. Can we build on from it? But weirdly, am I still nervous that we're going to bottle these games?
Oh, me too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we have done it. We did it against Richmond this year.
Yep.
So they just need to get some confidence and go again. See if they can fix this. Hopefully with some players to stay healthy, like those half forwards. Is that literally the difference? Like Vossi said in his press conference, we finally got all these players back and it worked for a little bit, but it might not click immediately. Is that actually the truth? Or is that just Vossi saying his positive thoughts after the game? I'm kind of interested to see how that pans out.
It's all valid. Any team can beat any team on their day. So, yeah, while we absolutely should be winning these games, it's not going to leave me doubt-free. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the other thing, like the thing that comes to mind when I just look at these two teams that we're coming up against, like Charlie, man, surely there's like one of these games is like proper domination. He used to just absolutely feast in games.
He needs an 8. He needs a 6 or an 8 goal game.
Give us something like that.
I mean, if he was umpired correctly, he probably would have those. He gets held so much. It's insane.
I know, man. I know.
It's just ridiculous. But team changes. As we are recording right now, we've got the extended teams. So by the time you hear this, the actual teams might be out. But without that, Lockie, were there any key changes that you were looking to make this week? Any serious ins, any serious outs for you?
There wasn't. I was kind of thinking, I guess, yeah, we could probably run this one back. The only one that maybe come to mind was I wouldn't be doing a tag in this game.
Yeah.
So where does
Not
that
even on
leave
a Harley
Chincotta?
Reid?
Not even on a Harley Reid. No, I don't think so. So yeah, and where that leaves Chincotta, does it mean that he stays in playing a different role, or does he make room for someone? You think
Is there
we
a
should?
I don't actually think we should tag anyone,
Yeah,
but
okay, good.
what role would you like to see him play if he isn't just tagging? Is it back to half back? Does he get a pinch hit in the midfield like he did when he was tagging? Is it in that forward line? What do you sort of see his best role for us?
Well, I guess when I shut my eyes and think about the field, like there isn't an obvious way to move him back, I would say, unless you take Carroll out of the team, move Chincotta back, and then it's like a Durden or someone to come in. Yeah, doesn't excite me massively. So yeah, that's I guess why I was kind of leaning to him not playing if there wasn't going to be a job. While I don't think that's the only role he can play, it's just hard for me to think of where it would be on balance.
I think I'm interested to see if he can play that high half forward role because he kind of plays the defensive forward in a way that like Fogarty, I guess, kind of brings
It's
the
hard to
pressure that
imagine that,
way.
but yeah.
But because he was that running halfback, the one that wanted to get the game moving, can he
Yeah.
do that front of center? And is that something that we miss because we don't have a lot of players that can run through that position? He's definitely not a small forward. Is there a bit of like Powell Pepper in how he goes about it? Like just a big brute player in that forward line that can kind of then push up to the stoppage, be an extra body, have some extra size, and then always want to push that ball forward. I'm intrigued to see where he plays. And yeah, I think these two almost are the
I
weeks
could
where
see
you can
that.
try a few things as well, not to disrespect the opposition, but if ever you could do it, I think these 2 weeks are the times to tweak a few things.
I think the way that the team is named, like with the list of the interchange there, I think that will be how it goes. I think it's going to be Durden in for White as the sub.
Yeah.
Is my bet.
I think that would have been my main change this week. Surprised they dropped Durden. I can kind of get maybe why you'd want Will White as a sub over Durden because I feel like Will White can push up the ground a little bit more, and maybe has a bit more speed slightly. But I think Durden's form being probably our best small forward, I almost would have. Like, I think right now I'd bring Durden straight into the team, Will White out, and Fogarty becomes my sub.
Sure.
I still question that Fogarty role quite a lot if we're a serious side. It's nothing against Fogarty. I quite like him, but he's playing such a defensive role in that forward line.
Yeah.
Doesn't have that offensive output. How long can we keep doing that? If you've got Chincotta in the side as another defensive player, like how defensive are we playing? At what stage are we going to say, let's try to win the game ourselves? Is this a reason why we struggle in these moments? Because we're not offensive enough.
Yeah. It probably is Elijah Hollands or Cottrell if they're fit, I would guess. I'm with you on that thought.
And we probably don't have the player to bring in to replace him necessarily. It'd probably have to be Lucas Camporelli, which I don't love for the defensive wing role. But Blake Acres is on thin ice.
Yeah.
Some of his decision-making, non-handballs that he is holding on to and not giving, horrific. That one in the middle of the ground got run down holding the ball was absolutely horrific.
That was a big moment.
He seems to be making more of these errors than he's making good, which never has Blake Acres been the perfect player. He gives you the ups, he gives you the downs. But I think over the last few years, those ups have been worth it. Right now, it's not feeling that way. And again, for a player who is quite experienced for us, I guess that's a bit of a worry. A 30-year-old, and he's someone that's making these mistakes and letting us down.
Yeah, I felt insanely down on him after the game. That goal really, really boosted things because otherwise it was pretty brutal. So yeah, I could see that too.
But I feel like the upside, if you want to again look for us and beyond, is if these are some of the roles and positions that some of these players are struggling in, then wing's kind of an easy one to bring someone else in and get a positive. So if
Yep.
the move is Akers isn't the one, someone else is into this starting lineup, then that's a positive.
Yeah.
We're getting more output, and it feels like an easy move. So
Yeah.
there are these little tweaks I think that we can be making throughout. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on in the Carlton realm before we wrap up this episode?
No Perth trip for you, I'm assuming, this weekend?
No, unfortunately. Very, very disappointing. Didn't get the call up, so
yeah,
you know.
Fair. That's right. We'll both be on TV watch. That's good.
Yeah, it'll be nice. I don't miss watching on the TV. There was being at the game. Like, I think if I watched that Essendon game on the TV, it would have been close to being turned off, Lockie. I was getting very frustrated there.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting watch this weekend. But let us know what you thought of the episode. Let us know what you thought of everything that we covered. And I really want to get a vibe check because we've had a couple of weeks off. We haven't heard from you. Want to know where you're sitting with Carlton at the moment, particularly looking at the end of this season. Are you watching these games with the lens for the next year, for the future, or are you still focused very much on this season? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. Head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner and send us a DM, tweet at us, whatever you need to do. But that's going to wrap this episode up. We will be back to review a massive win against the West Coast Eagles and build up our game against North. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.